Let me ask you something. When was the last time you paused and reflected on the choices you've been making, the habits you've been nurturing, and the path you're on? We often get so caught up in the whirlwind of life that we don't stop to ask, am I doing this right? I want to invite you to stop. Not stop forever, but stop long enough to reflect, redirect, and realign. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is to admit that you've been heading in the wrong direction. The first step, my friends, is self-reflection. Mistakes are part of being human, but repeating them is a choice. Take a hard look at your life. Are you living the life you truly desire, or are you stuck in a cycle of doing things just because it's familiar? Reflection is where change begins. Second, learn from your failures. Every mistake holds a lesson, a stepping stone toward growth. When you understand the why behind what went wrong, you unlock the power to make it right. Failure isn't final, it's a teacher. Third, identify the patterns. Many of us fall into routines that harm us rather than help us. Whether it's procrastination, negative self-talk, or toxic relationships, you must recognize the behaviors that no longer serve you. The moment you see the pattern, you have the power to break it. Fourth, take accountability. It's easy to blame others or circumstances, but true growth comes when you say, this is on me, and I can fix it. Accountability is not a burden, it's your greatest strength. It means you believe in your ability to change. Finally, redirect yourself toward purpose. When you stop doing the things that are wrong, you make space for everything that is right. You make room for clarity, joy, and a life aligned with your values. The message is simple: stop everything you're doing wrong. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Start with one thing, a small step, and let it ripple into big change. You have the power to rewrite your story, and it starts with the courage to pause and pivot. Self-reflection is one of the most powerful tools you can use for growth. It is the mirror that allows you to look at yourself not with judgment or criticism, but with honesty and compassion. In a world that moves at an overwhelming pace, it's easy to get swept up in the currents of routine and external demands, losing touch with the core of who you are and what you want to achieve. But when you make time for self-reflection, you create the space to step back, slow down, and assess whether the life you're living truly aligns with the values and goals you've set for yourself. When you reflect, you stop simply reacting to the world around you, and instead you start to respond with intention. Too often we get caught in a cycle of autopilot, going through the motions without thinking critically about what we are doing or why. We make decisions based on what's expected of us, on past patterns, or on outside pressures, rather than on a deep understanding of what truly matters to us. This is where self-reflection becomes transformative. It gives you the clarity you need to see your actions from a place of understanding, not just instinct. Self-reflection is not just about looking at the surface level of what you're doing. It's about diving deeper into the reasons behind your choices, your behaviors, and your reactions. Why do you act the way you do in certain situations? Why do you continue to repeat certain habits or make the same mistakes, even when you know they don't serve you? The answers to these questions are often hidden beneath the surface, shaped by your experiences, your beliefs, and your fears. By reflecting on your actions, you uncover the unconscious motivations that influence the way you live your life, and this awareness is the first step toward meaningful change. To reflect effectively, you need to create the conditions that allow for this kind of deep examination. It requires stillness, quiet, and the willingness to face your own truth. It means stepping away from distractions and tuning into yourself, your thoughts, feelings, and impulses. It requires vulnerability to honestly ask yourself if you are where you want to be, and if not, why. This is often uncomfortable because it forces you to confront parts of yourself that you may have ignored or even suppressed. But the beauty of self-reflection is that it's not about perfection, it's about growth. It's about looking at your imperfections, understanding them, and then taking the steps to make different choices moving forward. The process of reflection should be ongoing, not just a one-time event. It's not enough to reflect once and assume that you have all the answers. Life is fluid and constantly changing, and so are you. What you think is important today may not be as significant tomorrow, and what once seemed like a failure may turn into an opportunity. The key is to continue checking in with yourself, assessing where you are, where you want to go, and whether your actions align with your values and goals. Self-reflection should be an integral part of your life, not a special event that only happens when things go wrong. By making it a daily or weekly habit, you set yourself up for continuous growth and improvement. This process of self-reflection also allows you to celebrate your progress. It's easy to get bogged down by what you haven't achieved yet, but when you reflect, you can also look at how far you've come. It gives you the opportunity to acknowledge your victories, no matter how small, and recognize the changes you've made in your mindset, your actions, and your outlook. Reflection allows you to build a deeper connection to your own growth and to see the progress that may not always be visible in the hustle and bustle of daily life. In essence, self-reflection is the starting point for everything that comes next. It is the foundation upon which you build your understanding of yourself and your life. Without it, you may find yourself drifting, making decisions without purpose, and living on autopilot. But with self-reflection, you gain the clarity and insight needed to align your actions with your deeper values and desires. You become more aware of your choices, more mindful of the habits that serve you, and more intentional in your pursuit of the life you truly want to create. Through reflection, you empower yourself to stop everything you're doing wrong and to start moving toward everything you're meant to do right. Learning from failures is one of the most essential components of personal growth. Yet, for many, failure can feel like something to avoid, something that signals weakness or incompetence. In reality, failure is not a destination but a crucial part of the journey toward success. Every failure carries with it an important lesson that can guide us, refine us, and ultimately propel us forward. When we learn to see failure as an opportunity for growth rather than something to be feared or avoided, we unlock the door to endless potential and self-improvement. When you fail, it's natural to feel disappointment or frustration. We all experience moments when things don't go according to plan, when our best efforts fall short, or when we don't reach the milestones we set for ourselves. But the key is to shift your perspective. Instead of allowing failure to define you, you must redefine failure. Failure is not a reflection of your worth or capabilities, it is simply feedback. It is telling you that something didn't work in the way you expected, and now you have the chance to understand why. This shift in perspective allows you to break free from the destructive emotions that often accompany failure, such as shame or regret, and embrace the valuable insights it offers. One of the most powerful aspects of failure is that it forces you to examine what went wrong and why. This is where the learning happens. Often we make mistakes because we don't fully understand the nuances of a situation or because we haven't yet acquired the knowledge or skill needed to succeed. Failure then provides the perfect opportunity for reflection. It's an invitation to dig deeper, to ask critical questions, and to gain a clearer understanding of what you need to do differently next time. Without failure, you might never realize the gaps in your knowledge or the areas where you need to grow. It is through these gaps that true learning occurs. Moreover, failure teaches resilience. It shows you what you are truly made of. It's easy to be motivated when things are going well, but real growth happens when you face adversity. When you encounter setbacks, it's a test of your perseverance, your determination, and your commitment to your goals. It's easy to give up when things don't go as planned, but when you learn to persist in the face of failure, you build strength and character. Every time you pick yourself up after falling, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you realized. You begin to understand that failure is not the end, it's simply part of the process. There is also an important lesson in the humility that comes with failure. Failure forces us to acknowledge our limitations and confront our own imperfections. This is an uncomfortable but necessary part of growth. It's through recognizing that we don't know everything, that we haven't figured everything out, that we open ourselves up to new possibilities. We become more receptive to feedback, more open to learning from others, and more willing to adjust our approach. Failure humbles us in the best possible way. It reminds us that we are all a work in progress. Additionally, failure can be a catalyst for creativity and innovation. When something doesn't work, it often sparks a need for a new approach. You might find that the path you were initially following is not the one you should be on, and that realization can lead to a better, more effective solution. Failure encourages experimentation, it pushes you to think outside the box, and it motivates you to explore uncharted territory. Many of the greatest innovations in history have come from moments of failure. Think about inventors like Thomas Edison, who famously said that he didn't fail but simply found 10,000 ways that didn't work. That mindset of learning from each failure is what allowed him to eventually achieve success. Failure fosters creativity because it forces you to approach problems with fresh eyes, to look for new solutions, and to explore avenues you might never have considered otherwise. Learning from failure also teaches patience. Change doesn't happen overnight, and success doesn't come easily. Progress takes time, and there will inevitably be bumps along the way. But the process of learning from failure builds the patience required to see things through. It helps you understand that mastery is not a quick fix, but a continuous journey of trial and error, correction, and adaptation. As you learn to embrace failure and its lessons, you become more comfortable with the pace of growth, understanding that each step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to your ultimate goal. In the end, learning from failure is what makes success meaningful. It's the lessons learned, the resilience developed, and the growth achieved through failure that make the eventual success all the more rewarding. So, instead of fearing failure, embrace it. See it for what it truly is, an invaluable teacher. Because when you learn from failure, you not only become better at what you do, but you also become better at living a life filled with purpose, growth, and endless possibilities. Identifying patterns in our lives is essential for making meaningful change. We often find ourselves repeating the same behaviors, thoughts, and choices, yet wonder why we don't see progress. These recurring actions form the patterns that dictate much of our daily experience. Whether positive or negative, our habits and behaviors follow these patterns, often unconsciously, and they shape the outcomes we experience in life. The ability to identify these patterns is a crucial step toward transformation because it allows us to break free from behaviors that no longer serve us and create space for new, healthier habits that align with our goals. The first challenge in identifying patterns is simply becoming aware of them. Patterns are often so ingrained in our daily routines that we don't even realize they exist. We get up at the same time every day, interact with the same people, follow the same set of tasks, and react to situations in the same predictable ways. While these routines may feel comfortable, they can also trap us in cycles that prevent growth. The key to breaking free from this cycle is to observe yourself more consciously. Pay attention to your thoughts, your reactions, and your behavior, especially in situations that repeatedly cause frustration, disappointment, or stagnation. By becoming aware of how you are responding in these moments, you can begin to see the patterns that are playing out in your life. For instance, consider your approach to challenges. Do you tend to procrastinate, avoid difficult tasks, or give up quickly when things get hard? If so, this is a pattern of avoidance or fear of failure. Identifying this pattern is the first step in changing it. By simply recognizing the behavior, you begin to shift from being a passive participant in your life to an active observer of your actions. This awareness creates an opportunity for you to interrupt the cycle and make conscious decisions to act differently next time. It might involve pushing through discomfort, breaking tasks into smaller, manageable steps, or seeking support from others, but the key is that you now have the power to choose a new response. Similarly, patterns can also emerge in our relationships. Do you find yourself attracting the same types of people or engaging in the same unhealthy dynamics? Perhaps you repeatedly fall into relationships where you're not valued, or you experience conflict with others in the same way. These patterns often stem from deeper, unresolved issues within ourselves. By identifying these patterns, we are given the opportunity to reflect on what they are teaching us about our own beliefs and behaviors. For example, if you repeatedly find yourself in relationships where you're not respected, it might indicate a deeper issue of self-worth or the need to set stronger boundaries. Recognizing these patterns is not about placing blame on others, it's about taking responsibility for your role in the dynamic and choosing to break free from unhealthy cycles. Identifying patterns can also extend to how we think about ourselves. Negative self-talk is a common pattern that can hold us back from reaching our potential. Do you often doubt your abilities, focus on your shortcomings, or compare yourself to others? These thought patterns can create a cycle of insecurity and self-sabotage, limiting your opportunities for growth. By recognizing this pattern of negative thinking, you can begin to challenge it and replace it with more positive, empowering thoughts. This shift in mindset is often the catalyst for change because it alters how you view yourself and your potential. Identifying patterns is not always a simple or quick process. It requires honesty, introspection, and sometimes even the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. Many of us have deep-rooted habits or beliefs that we're not fully aware of, and it can be difficult to confront these patterns. But the discomfort of facing the truth is always less painful than staying stuck in a cycle of frustration and stagnation. When you commit to self-awareness, you are giving yourself the power to make intentional changes that align with your higher aspirations. Once you've identified the patterns, the real work begins changing them. This requires consistency and effort, but the good news is that once you break a negative pattern, you open the door to new possibilities. The key to breaking old patterns is to replace them with new, more constructive behaviors. If you identify a pattern of procrastination, for example, you can replace it with small, daily actions that move you toward your goals. If you recognize that you tend to give up easily when faced with adversity, you can practice resilience by pushing through discomfort and learning to see challenges as opportunities for growth. In order to sustain change, it's important to remember that patterns don't change overnight. It takes time, practice, and patience to rewire your brain and behavior. But the more you practice new ways of thinking and acting, the easier it becomes to replace old patterns with new ones. And with each new success, no matter how small, you will build momentum, reinforcing the positive patterns that will lead you toward the life you want. In the end, identifying patterns is about taking control of your life. It's about moving from a place of unconscious living to one of conscious choice. It's recognizing that you are not a victim of circumstance, but an active participant in creating the life you desire. When you identify your patterns, you stop being passive in your own story and start becoming the author of your future. With each pattern you identify and change, you are crafting a new, empowered version of yourself, capable of achieving the goals and dreams that once seemed out of reach. Self-discipline is the cornerstone of any meaningful and lasting success. It is the ability to control one's emotions, behaviors, and thoughts in the pursuit of long-term goals. Without self-discipline, all the talent and ambition in the world can go to waste. It is what keeps you going when motivation wanes, when the path seems too difficult, or when distractions threaten to derail your progress. Self-discipline is about making the choice to act in alignment with your values and goals, even when it's hard, and even when you don't feel like it. It is the skill that transforms dreams into reality. The first step in cultivating self-discipline is setting clear, specific goals. It's not enough to simply say, "I want to be successful," or "I want to improve my life." You need to define what success looks like for you and break it down into concrete, achievable steps. Without clear goals, it's easy to lose focus and fall prey to distractions or procrastination. But when you have a clear vision of what you want to achieve and a roadmap to get there, self-discipline becomes much easier. The more specific and measurable your goals, the easier it is to maintain the focus necessary to stay disciplined. Once your goals are set, the next step is creating habits that support them. Self-discipline is built on consistency. Success is not about doing something extraordinary once in a while, it's about doing the ordinary things consistently. Whether it's getting up early to work on your goals, following through on commitments, or resisting the urge to procrastinate, it's the small, everyday decisions that ultimately determine your level of success. Building positive habits requires intentional effort and repetition. At first it may feel challenging or unnatural, but over time these behaviors will become second nature. The more you practice self-discipline, the stronger it becomes, like a muscle that grows with use. Part of developing self-discipline is learning how to manage distractions. In today's world, distractions are everywhere: social media, endless notifications, constant stimuli. If you're not careful, these distractions can easily take over your time and energy, leaving you with little to show for your efforts. Self-discipline requires you to take control of your environment and remove or limit distractions that are preventing you from staying focused. This might mean turning off your phone during work hours, creating a dedicated space for studying or creating, or setting boundaries with people who may pull you away from your priorities. It also means having the mental fortitude to say no to things that do not serve your long-term goals. Self-discipline is not just about doing the right thing. It's also about learning to avoid the wrong things that lead you astray. Another critical element of self-discipline is managing your emotions. It's easy to become discouraged when things aren't going as planned or when obstacles arise. In these moments, it's crucial to maintain emotional control and focus on the bigger picture. Self-discipline requires you to resist the impulse to give up when things get tough. It's about developing emotional resilience, staying calm in the face of challenges, and keeping your eye on the goal. This might involve reframing setbacks as learning opportunities or finding ways to calm your mind through mindfulness, deep breathing, or positive self-talk. Emotional regulation allows you to stay motivated even when the going gets tough. Self-discipline involves taking personal responsibility for your actions and outcomes. It means acknowledging that you are in control of your choices and that your results are directly linked to your level of effort and commitment. Rather than blaming external circumstances or other people, self-discipline requires you to look inward and take ownership of your journey. This sense of personal accountability empowers you to keep moving forward, even when things don't go as planned. It's about being honest with yourself, recognizing where you need to improve and taking the necessary steps to do so. While self-discipline is important for achieving long-term goals, it is also essential for building a sense of self-worth and confidence. When you demonstrate self-discipline, you prove to yourself that you can trust yourself. You show yourself that you are capable of making difficult decisions, taking consistent action, and following through on your commitments. This builds self-esteem and reinforces the belief that you can achieve whatever you set your mind to. When you keep promises to yourself, no matter how small, you begin to see yourself as someone who can achieve success. This positive self-image fuels even greater discipline, creating a virtuous cycle that propels you toward your goals. One of the most powerful aspects of self-discipline is that it allows you to delay gratification. In our fast-paced, instant gratification world, it's easy to succumb to the desire for immediate rewards. However, self-discipline teaches you to focus on the long-term benefits of your efforts, even when there are short-term temptations that may be more appealing. It's about understanding that the sacrifices you make today will pay off in the future. Whether it's working late to finish a project, choosing a healthy meal over junk food, or turning down a night out to study for an exam, self-discipline helps you stay committed to the bigger picture. It's the ability to see past the immediate pleasure or discomfort and focus on what's truly important in the long run. Self-discipline is the foundation of success, and it's available to everyone. It's not about being perfect, but about making consistent, intentional choices that align with your values and goals. It's a skill that grows stronger with practice, and one that will serve you in every aspect of your life. So embrace self-discipline as the key to unlocking your full potential, and watch as it transforms your dreams into reality. Self-awareness plays a fundamental role in breaking the cycle of unproductive behaviors and achieving meaningful change. It is the ability to observe and understand your thoughts, emotions, and actions, and how they align with your values and goals. Without self-awareness, it is easy to live on autopilot, repeating the same mistakes and getting stuck in unfulfilling routines. By developing self-awareness, you can begin to identify the root causes of your challenges, whether they are fear, self-doubt, or old habits. This clarity allows you to make intentional choices that align with your desired outcomes. Self-awareness also helps you recognize your strengths and weaknesses, providing an opportunity to build on what works and address areas of growth. By being honest with yourself about your behavior, you can stop making excuses and start taking responsibility for your actions. This honest reflection enables you to be proactive in changing your habits and thought patterns. Over time, as you grow in self-awareness, you become more equipped to handle challenges, navigate difficult emotions, and stay aligned with your values. It is through self-awareness that you truly gain the power to transform your life. Because only by understanding yourself can you take the necessary steps toward lasting change.